Welcome to our first flipped classroom video that you'll be doing for homework. It's about keeping an interactive student notebook. If you notice, every video that you're going to do for me for homework always has objectives on the front of on the very first slide, so you know exactly what's going to be covered, and you can use it as a check when you finished watching the video. Go back and look at the objectives. Can you answer the question? Can you answer these as questions when you're done? This is a good way to make sure that your notes are complete. Tonight's video is going to be on keeping an interactive student notebook, or your ISN. So when you see abbreviations in the homework, you'll know that what I'm talking about is your interactive student notebook. In tonight's video, the first thing I'm going to do is define the term interactive and explain how this makes the notebook different from what you're used to. I'm going to explain the expectations for your notebook, how I expect the notebook set up, and the kinds of thinking I expect you to demonstrate in the notebook. I'm going to show you some examples of some student notebooks, and then I'm going to describe how your notebook is going to be graded in my class. Your ISN is different from most notebooks in two important ways. First of all, it's your textbook in my class. Your ISN, plus all the information that's posted to NICEnet, the class website, is everything you need to be successful. I don't issue a book because I haven't found one that fits what we need, and I've always found that it's just easier to write our own textbook. This is important because each class is different. Even though I have 6th, 8th grade classes, your class may not look like exactly what we're doing in Blue 2 or Silver 1, simply because the kids in the class are different and your needs are different. So each of your own ISNs is an important record of the information we've covered in class and what you thought about that information. Don't ever come to class without your ISN. It's like coming to class without your book. The second thing that's important about an interactive student notebook is that it's interactive, and here's where the first objective is met. If you look up the word interactive in the dictionary, you'll see that it comes from two stems. It comes from the stem active, which is an adjective, and the stem inter, which is a prefix. All right, if you look at this piece of the word interactive, active implies that you're engaged in doing something, that you're participating, you're doing some kind of work. The second piece of the word interactive is inter, and that means between or reciprocally or together. So if you look at interactive, basically what it means is that you're acting upon or you're doing something with something I've been given. In other words, an interactive notebook is a notebook where you have taken down material or information, and I expect you to act upon it in a certain way to make the material your own. So your days of sitting in class, copying down what's on the board and not thinking about it again are over if you want to pass 8th grade English. The purpose of an interactive notebook, first of all, is to enable you to be creative, which most notebooks don't. And it also is to enable you to be an independent thinker and writer, which goes back to the mission statement we looked at on day 1. The second purpose of the interactive notebook is for you to make the information that we took in class your own, to do something with it besides just write it down. So your ISN is going to be used for class notes, but it's also going to be a place where you do other activities, where you make connections, you change the information some way, you process the information in class so that it sticks in your head. The second important thing on what we want to look at is how I want this ISN set up, and I'm very particular about how you keep your ISN. First of all, each set of notes you take is actually a 2-page spread in your notebook, a right-hand page and a left-hand page. The right-hand page is always an even number, and those are my pages. Those are the input pages. That's where you'll take the information I give you exactly as I give it to you. I input it into your notebook. So you'll either copy it off of the board, you'll glue in a handout, or you'll take notes from a video, which is what you should be doing now. Everybody's right-hand page should have the same complete information. Your left-hand page, that's the page opposite where you have taken in the data, is your page, the student page, or the interaction page. It's where you take the information, you think about what data I have given you, and you find a way to make it your own. It could be practicing a skill that you just took notes on. It could be creating a graphic organizer to reorganize the information in a way that's more user-friendly to you. It could be drawing a diagram. It could be making a cartoon. It could be anything that you need to make the information something more than what I've given you. The left-hand page is also where you put your summaries when you watch a video, and it's also where you write any questions you have from homework video. Your left-hand pages don't look like anybody else's because how you make sense of something is going to be completely different than how somebody else makes sense of something. Here's a visual, shows you a two-page spread of an interactive student notebook. You'll see that the seam down the middle where the page is sewn in is the divider. The right-hand page is the input page. This is where you get the data from me, the ideas, the skills, the information, the concepts. The right-hand pages are where you get your reference material. So if you're taking a test, the information comes from the right-hand side. The left-hand page is where you've done your thinking about the information on the other side of the page. It's where you've made sense of it, of where you've practiced it, where you've processed it, where you've rearranged it in some way so that it's clear to you. The other thing I'm very picky about, besides how your notebook is set up, is that each page has a heading and that you maintain a table of contents. I expect each right-hand page note to have a topic, and I will usually give you the topic in class. If you take topic from homework videos, the topic will be the name of the video. And I also expect you to title any of the glue-ins or project information I give you. The other thing is that the table of contents, we've already started to set this up in class. Any topics of right-hand notes are entered in your table of contents on the page that they're entered in. And also any of your homework notes should be entered in your table of contents. This third thing, or the second thing I want to look at, is some possibilities. I know you're thinking, great, so I'm supposed to do something with the notes you give me. What do you want me to do? Here's a list of possibilities. I'm not going to read these out loud to you. You can look at them. Understand that each one of these I'm going to explain to you. We're going to do some of these together. There's some diagrams out of some student notebooks of other classes. The one at the top is from a social studies notebook. The left-hand page were notes that were taken on ancient Greece and some of the gods and the important places. So you can see the left-hand page, they went home and they drew some pictures. They made some kind of a graphic to help them connect the data to a picture in their head. The bottom was from one of my student notebooks a few years ago. We were talking about character traits and how authors show character traits. And this particular student went home, and on the left-hand page, they drew a picture of a character in a book we were reading together, how they thought the character would look, and then they labeled it, or they annotated the character collage as to what kind of traits they thought that character displayed and how they displayed them. Remember that each of the lists on this page are possibilities for left-hand page entries. I won't leave you alone. I'll help you with these, and we'll talk more about them as we get into the class. Your first entries in your ISN have already been done on day 1. If you look at page 2, which is a right-hand page, an even-numbered page, you glued in or you copied this Spratley Gifted Center mission statement, and we annotated together all of the words that were important in that mission statement. Then on page 1, a left-hand page, I asked you to reflect on what you thought each of those critical vocabulary words meant in that statement. So when we were done working through page 1, discussing what you thought, your understanding of page 2 was clearer because of the work you did on page 1. Last thing we're going to talk about is how I'm going to grade or assess your ISN. I really don't like the word grade. Grade implies you do something because I tell you to. I prefer the word assess. Assess implies that it has value to you. Your mom has a piece of jewelry. She has the jeweler do an assessment. It tells her how much the jewelry's worth if she wants to sell it. If your parents are going to buy or sell a house, they have a real estate agent come in and do a real estate assessment. It tells you how much the property is worth to you. So when I talk about assessing your ISN, I talk about looking at how value is the work that you've done in this notebook going to be to you as a student in my classroom. I'm going to assess your ISN, or I'm going to assign a value to your ISN for everything we just talked about. Do you have a table of contents that isn't complete? Have you numbered the pages, and are the pages titled? Is everything glued in where I told you to glue it in? Is it neatly and in the right place? Are your right-hand page notes complete and correct? Are your left-hand pages thoughtful? Are they complete? Do they show connections? Do they show new thinking? Do they show questions that you have? Is the whole notebook clean and legible? Is there color and creativity in your left-hand pages? These things are going to be graded because these are what make your ISN valuable to you as a tool in my class. You're going to be assessed, or the value of your notebook is going to be checked twice every 9 weeks. I'm going to do one formal assessment. I'm going to use a rubric to grade it. By random, I mean you never know when I'm going to collect your ISN for that formal assessment. It's going to be once in 9 weeks. I could collect the first 4 notebooks at each table the 3rd week of the 9 weeks, and I might collect the end of the notebook the last 9 weeks. But that means you better have your notebook together all the time because you never know when I'm going to pick it up. The second formal assessment is going to be a peer check, and this one's a little different. It's just going to be a checklist to make sure that everything is there, and that's going to happen once in 9 weeks, and you'll know when it's coming. All right, you've seen the entire video on keeping an ISN. You should have taken notes on a right-hand page. Here's an overview of what I expect you as a student in a flipped classroom. Be a careful viewer of this video. Watch it, rewind it, pause it where you need to, review wherever you need to review to make sure that it's clear. Once it's clear, make sure you've taken good notes. It's on the next free second right-hand page in your ISN. Make sure that the topic, keeping an ISN, has been added to your table of contents. On the left-hand page facing these notes, write your summary of what you received, what information you got. Remember that I expect your summary to be clear and succinct and not just a whole retelling of the video. Underneath the summary, I expect one good question from you. It could be a question that you still have about something that's not clear from the video that you want to ask in class tomorrow and get clarified. Or it could be a question you want your peers to discuss. Maybe it's a question that's going to ask your peers to draw some inferences from the video. Maybe it's going to be something that asks them to draw some conclusions. Maybe it's going to be something that asks them to compare and contrast. I don't know. But everyone must have one clear question. Okay? Think about the video, and I will see you in class tomorrow.